What's up guys, Woody here, back with another new to Mythgard video, and finally we're getting around to Orange. We have one video left after this, so if this is the first time you found this video, we've actually done one of these like in-depth guides for every faction, well every faction apart from Purple, which is coming up next week. And yeah, so now we're looking at Orange, which is definitely one of my favourite factions in the game. And I would definitely stand and argue that it's one of the best factions in the game, potentially the best faction in the game, and that's mostly due to its versatility. So Orange is it's best seen as a very mid-range faction. And if anyone is extremely new to card games and thinking, what on earth does mid-range mean? Mid-range is very much just versatility. So cards that can, decks that can adapt to other decks. Like you have a combo deck where you're trying to build up one big card or a couple of big cards and then swing for them. Or you have a control deck where you're trying to remove your opponent's minions or just stop them playing stuff and control the board. Whereas mid-range is kind of doing a little bit of control, maybe a little bit of aggro, and maybe even a little bit of like comboing as well. So it's one of those versatility decks, and Orange has so much versatility, from enchantments to artifacts to big minions to mid-range, like mid-game minions, to early game minions. There's so much going on with Orange, and it's a super strong color. There's probably the reason why Red Orange is the most prominent deck on ladder at the moment is due to the versatility that Orange brings to Red, giving Red that even better late game presence that it needs as a color or as a faction. But Orange is super fun. Orange is very good, and there's a lot you can do with Orange. I'm sitting there making it sound like you go play Red Orange, but honestly, this color is, you can mix it with purple, you can mix it with any color. Blue for a rule called enchantment deck. It goes to yellow and makes a super hyper control deck. It's really, really good. It's definitely a color I recommend play around with. It can be a little bit of an expensive color. Now, what I mean by that is some of the mythics in Orange are very powerful. So to really play Orange till its full potential, it can be slightly more expensive than some of the other factions, especially something like Red. But with that said, there are definitely ways around it, and that's hopefully what we're going to do in this video. So what we're going to do today, guys, is, as I said, we're going to talk about what Orange is, which I've just done. We're going to talk about some tribal synergy in Orange. We're going to go through some like key cards in the faction, talk about whether you should craft them, whether you shouldn't craft them, whether you should strive to craft them first. And then we're going to look at 3 decks, contrasting decks, that you can go play with. One is a lot cheaper than the others. It's still 10,000 essence, but if you've been playing for about 3 weeks, you should probably have close to enough cards to be able to play around with it and make it playable. The others are a little bit more expensive. We're talking 20 to 30,000 essence. So they're your more competitive decks. A lot of people have been asking me how much essence for a competitive deck. It's really hard to say, to be honest. You can make a competitive Red Orange deck for around about 20,000 essence, but then normally most competitive decks fully optimized are sat around the 30,000 essence. So they are expensive. Yes, they are expensive. But anyway, that's a video for a whole other time. Going into Orange now, tribal synergy. Tribal synergy, for those who don't know, are names of cards. So, for example, if anyone plays Magic the Gathering, Goblins is a tribal synergy, or Knights is a tribal synergy, and if anyone's played Gwent, then Witches would be a tribal synergy. I'm trying to think of other card games I've played. I can't think of any really coming to my head. But yeah, tribal synergy are linking card types with one another. There's actually, Orange probably offers the most versatile tribal synergy out of all the colours. When we looked at blue, we looked at the Valkyrie tribal synergy. When we looked at red, we looked at the Vampire tribal synergy. Yellow is a little bit lackey on the tribal synergy in terms of leaning into a set identity. But what we have here is we have Zealots are definitely one of the strongest tribal synergies in Orange. But you combine them with Rebels. Rebels and Zealots are a really good combination to make a tribal deck. You have cards that link with synergize with Rebels, like a little bit like Storied Martyr, which is when it dies, give all your Rebels +1/+1. Then you have Zealot synergy with stuff like Spirit Destiny, where it's all your minions and now Zealots. So even if you play a Rebel, it comes out as a Rebel Zealot. So it doesn't lose its other keyword. It doesn't go just to a Zealot. It doesn't lose Rebel. It goes to a Rebel Zealot. And if you combine that with stuff like Pass the Clarion, whereas when you create a Zealot, including this one, give all your other Zealot minions +1/+0 till the end of turn. Combine it with Spirit Destiny, now you've got these Rebel Zealots, and then combine it with something like Xerian Sympathizer, where you've got gets +1/+1 until the end of turn when you create another Rebel, gets Frenzy to the end of turn when you create another Zealot. So you have a lot of synergy going on with these cards. And honestly, it's one of the first decks I played, one of the first competitive decks I played, when I brought the Mythics into making the deck. And it's a lot of fun. It's a very aggressive deck. You can win by turn 5 quite easily if all goes well. It's just one of those decks that is very much, you need the right cards. If you have the curve out of something like Eager Recruit on turn 1, then you can play Spirit Destiny on turn 2, and you can play Clarion on turn 3, and then you can start dropping your Sympathizers turn 4, and then other Zealots or Rebels turn 5, turn 6, then you're really gonna play under a lot of decks. However, you don't have one of those cards in your opening hand, then the deck can be very slow and can feel very clunky. So that's one synergy it has. It also has a really nice synergy with some deserts. Now, Sandscape is an enchantment that it covers 3 lanes with a desert. And you have lots of cards that kind of create deserts. You have Desertification, always gets the name wrong, Desertification Engine, which you can use to create a desert. You then have other cards that come down, like Mardakor, which deals 2 damage to another minion, but when it dies, if it's on a desert enchantment, it deals 3 damage to anyone. So as well as the Zealot Rebel synergy, you also have the synergy with deserts, and that's a nice little kind of added synergy, added tribal synergy in with Orange. And then there are a few constructs. There are construct cards out there. There isn't tons of synergy with constructs. There's a little bit here or there, but there isn't tons. But I do feel like constructs will get a little bit more synergy as expansions come and as the game grows. But all in all, in terms of a tribal synergy, there's definitely the most. Orange definitely offers the most out of all the factions. Now going on to the cards. Getting through the cards. This is honestly probably the most cards I've got to get through out of any faction, because there are so many good cards in Orange, and I'm not even kidding. Now, every card we look at, we're not going to look at it and go, my god, you need to go craft this card. I'm going to break down why I'm looking at it. Maybe I'm looking at it because it's underrated. Maybe I'm looking at it because it's slightly overrated. I'll try to let you guys know. But we're going to kick off with Conviction. So Conviction is a 1-drop, 1 orange gem card that gives a minion Slayer free and Overrun. Slayer free basically means when you swing into another minion, it does 3 additional damage. Now, what's cool with this is you can put a 1-drop card on. You can put this 1-drop card onto something like a Passer Recruit, sorry, an Eager Recruit, which is a 2/1. This now, when it's swinging against a minion, makes it a 5/1. So if they've got a 4/4 on the board, you're going to remove it, and you're going to get the 1 damage through Overrun to the face. If they've got a 5 health minion on the board, you can, for 2 mana, you can trade your 2/1 into their 5/5 minion. So it's not the best card. It's not a card I say go include into every single deck, but it is a card I see overlooked quite a lot because it can help your smaller chump blockers, your smaller minions, especially if you're playing like you're going for a cheaper version of Red Orange. Playing something like Conviction in there can be great because you can put it onto something like your Stagori Pup, which is a 2/1, 1-drop 2/1 that comes out with life tap. So then when you swing with that, you can do 5 damage life tap with Conviction for 2 mana and remove potentially a 3/4 5 mana card with for 2 mana. So it can be very efficient. It can be a very good card when used like that. Eager Recruit is quite simply a must auto-include card into any Orange. It's a 1-drop. It is your go-to 1-drop for Orange. It's probably one of the best 1-drops in the game. Why? Well, it comes out at 2/1, so it's already going to trade into quite a lot of 2-drops anyway. And then it also gives you a 1/1 in your hand. So early game, especially playing against something like aggro, you're getting 2 minions for the price of 1. Yes, you have to pay 2 mana, but it basically means if you open in hand as 2 of these, you can drop 1 of these turn 1. You can then drop another one turn 2 along with a Pass Recruit. You're covering 3 lanes of the board against an aggro deck that wants to find face. That can be really big in shutting them out and slowing them down. It's also great for chump blockers, like against yellow when they put down a Sapo. Sapo comes out at 8/8, sometimes 10/10 if they're really lucky, 12/12. It doesn't have Overrun, so you can just throw a 1/1 in front of it and it just blocks Sapo. You don't take the face damage. This is a really good 1-drop, like I said, one of the best 1-drops in the game, quite simply. Next, we're going to go on to Dark Passenger. Now, Dark Passenger is a very good card. It's a rare. It's not your go-to craft rare. So if you have got rare wild cards sat in your library, just hold off for now. There is a couple of cards I'm going to say you must go craft for rare wild cards if you want to play orange. Even if you don't want to play orange, just some of the best rares in the game. This isn't one of them, but it is a very good card. It gives one of your minions deadly, and when it dies, you draw a card. So for 2 mana, it's pretty nuts. You can basically give deadly to an eager recruit. You can trade your 2/1 into their Sapo, which will then kill their Sapo, and you draw a card for it. I'm using very extreme examples here, just to try and give you an idea. But Sapo's a big card that you can trade into, okay? Now remember, deadly doesn't go past armor. You actually have to do combat damage to get the deadly. So if you put this onto a 1/1, so let's say Xerian Observer over here, and you swing the 1/1 into something that's got 1 armor, it won't work with the deadly because the armor blocks the combat damage, and deadly only works when you actually deal combat damage to that minion. But Dark Passenger is a great card. It's a very good card, like I said, for making your smaller minions a little bit more robust, a little bit more control-y. But it also, what's really good is you draw a card when it dies. So you're potentially removing a threat off the board, and you're drawing a card, which is pretty big in this game. Next, a card I slept on for way too long, guys. And don't do the same mistake I've done. Lamp of Wonders. It was actually Semper that said to me, no, you need to play this card. You need to put this card in your deck. And it was the text that put me off of it. So Lamp of Wonders is a 2-drop artifact that has 3 charges. It doesn't have any durability counters, so they can't remove it unless they play a card that specifically says destroy an enemy artifact or take control of an enemy artifact. You can't destroy it with combat damage. And then, so 3 charges, use 1 charge to Divination 4, which basically means you look at the top 4 cards of your deck, choose what you're drawing next. When it gets to 0, obviously this dies, the artifact goes, and you draw a card. So you basically, you choose what card you're drawing for the next 2 turns, and then on the 3rd turn, you're choosing what card to draw, and then drawing that card. And then you shuffle a copy of this card into your opponent's deck, a 2-cost copy into their deck. Which isn't orange mana, it's just a generic 2-cost mana. So this put me off for a long while. I said, I don't want my opponent to have this. But honestly, most of the time they find it. They don't use, like, by the time you get this off, if you play this on curve, it's not going into their deck until turn 5 because you can't do it more than once per turn. By turn 5, they've normally into their game rhythm, their game plan, that they don't want to be throwing out a 2-mana card to then play a 3 or 4 mana card on turn 5 or 6. And be potentially behind curve in terms of when they could be putting out a 5 or 6 drop card and playing to the same strength you're playing. So it's really not. This text down here isn't something to be worried about. It's such a strong card. People I've recommended to go craft it and play it have all said how good the card is. It is so good. It goes in pretty much every single one of my orange decks that I make or I play. It's a super strong card. Next, we're going to go into a little bit of that, as I mentioned earlier, a little bit of the Zealot synergy and that Spear of Destiny. Stacking, all your minions are Zealots, but all Zealots have focused 1. Now, what that means is, if you're doing damage into the lane directly opposite, so let's say you've played your Eager Recruit into lane 2, and you've got Spear of Destiny on the board. If you swing directly opposite lane 2, into your opponent's lane 2 as you see it, it will do 3 damage rather than the 2. It does do 1 additional damage because of focus. If you swung into lane 1 or lane 3, it wouldn't do the additional damage. Now this focus damage goes on against minions or also goes against face. So it can be very good to kind of give your chump minions a little bit more bite to them, shall we say. It's not a super strong card. If you've got an orange mythic, it's definitely not the one I'd say go craft right now. But however, it is a card that can definitely, if you want to run Zealots, it's definitely a card that I would recommend. But you can easily run Zealot Rebel deck without it because it's a mythic and you can only run 1 copy in your deck. You can easily get around not playing this card in a Rebel Zealot deck, especially through Bronze and Silver. Rebel Zealot decks won't really hold their own around Gold anyway, because they'll lose their early game presence. And once they've blown out their early game presence, they kind of end up getting a little bit slow, and there's a lot of decks that can play over them. So, yeah, but it's a card I wanted to point out if you want to run this Rebel Zealot synergy. This card is pretty cool. Vital Brockside is a card that I am always very mixed on. I have some games where I go, oh my god, this card is amazing. I have other games where I go, oh my god, this card is trash. It's a cheap version of Fane, basically, from Blue. Now, what I mean by cheap is, and I don't mean it's cheaper to play, it's just not as good. So Fane is the card that whenever another minion dies, it fully restores its health. Brockside fully heals whenever an enemy minion is created. So it's fine, but what most people do to remove this is they will play the minion down, or they'll play 2 minions down, they'll swing 1 into it, they'll make sure they don't play any other minions, and then they'll just swing the other minion into it to remove it. It's fine if you are new to the game and you haven't got many cards to be building out on orange. It's a card I would say definitely put in your deck. It will run very well through bronze because a lot of them this card can challenge your opponent's play sequencing, and by that I mean the order they play their cards. If they're too quick in rushing out and playing cards, then Vital Brockside will just keep healing itself. So you're forcing your opponent to think about where they're playing cards, when they're playing cards, to make sure it doesn't keep healing. You throw it on enchantments to give it more health, or you give it more health yourself. It can get a little bit out of hand, but it's a perfectly fine card. I just see so many people running it, and it's just it's fine. If you've got a cheap deck, so if you've got a small collection, it's a card I definitely would run. As your collection grows, as a 2-drop, it's a card that you're going to start cutting more and more as it goes along. Then we have a card that is extremely good. However, again, it's not your go-to craft rare for orange yet. It is Xerion Recruiter. So Xerion Recruiter is when you play the ability, the Awaken abilities, look at the top card of your deck. If it is a minion, draw it, and it's now a Rebel permanently. So again, this leans into the Zealot Rebel synergy, but not just that. It also leans into card draw. So people run this in decks that aren't Rebel Zealots. People run this because it's card draw. You're playing a 2-drop minion for 2/3, which is probably the best stats. I'd rather a 2/3 2-drop than a 3/2 because the sustainability with the extra health means it can potentially trade into 2 minions rather than just a 1. And then the fact you draw a card of it. Now, this card, where it falls down is if you're running a lot of spells or enchantments or even artifacts in your deck, if it isn't a minion, you don't draw it. So you're basically just looking at the top card of your deck. So it comes down just as a 2/3 2-drop, which isn't the end of the world. If you do find a minion and you do get the card draw off it, then that's super cool. It's a very good card. If we're going to look at a rare in a minute, which is I'm going to say you must go craft now. If you already have that rare, then this is your second rare. But we'll get to the other rare in a minute. But it's a very good card. The card draw is always strong. You see it in, I don't want to say every orange deck, but you see it in a lot of orange decks. Rebels or no rebels being run in those decks. Next, we're going to go to Desertification Engine. Now, this card is a card that I've set on for a very long time. I haven't used it much, but it's really good. The 5 health makes it insane. Like, 3-drop, 2 attack, 5 health, and Swift. So the Swift basically allows it to be a good little blocker around. You can move it because this is blue, it's not orange. You can use the utility to create a desert in that lane and then move it as well same turn, or swing with it. And deserts basically mean every time your opponent swings through a lane that's got a desert in it, they take 1 damage, regardless of what it is. Like they take 1 damage to the player, so even armor doesn't protect that. It's not the minion takes 1 damage, it's the player takes 1 damage. This is really cool. It's a really good little card. It's not your go-to craft mythic for orange. It's a bonus mythic. It's if you put it into your orange deck. It's a 2/5 blocker for 3 mana with Swift. It's very, very good. Even if you ignore this text down here, a 2/5 blocker with Swift for 3 mana and only 1 orange gem is extremely good. It's a very good card. Like I said, if you pull it, definitely put it in your deck. If you don't pull it, don't feel stressed to go and craft it right now. It's one that, as your collection grows, you'll naturally get it and you can start playing it. But you're not gonna potentially win games by playing this card. It's probably the best way I can explain it. Dire Benediction is the next one, another rare. This card is okay. This card can be bonkers. I run one of my favorite decks last season was an orange-green deck. I loved playing my orange-green deck. I won so many games with Dire Benediction. So Dire Benediction is a spell, a 3-drop spell that casts on a minion to deal damage to its opposing player equal to its strength, and then lock its strength to 0. What that means is, when I was playing something like IQ, if I just show you guys what I mean by IQ, So when I'm playing something like IQ in the deck, which is a 10-10, I'd put this down on the board, then the opponent will get Defender now. I could then potentially swing through, maybe get 6 damage overrun, and then play Dire Benediction onto IQ. Its strength is 10, so it does 10 damage straight to the opponent's face, meaning I've done 16 damage in the turn. But then, however, this strength is locked to 0. So you only ever go for the Dire Benediction when you are going for lethal, basically. When you have lethal set up, when you know playing Dire Benediction is going to give you lethal, this is what gets it. This card is great when you're playing green because you have your short stags, you have your IQs, you'll have your... I'm trying to think of the other cards now that are really big. Even something like a heavy, like a Volk Heavy, which is a 5/5. But those cards that are nice and big can get lethal. There are a couple of oranges that can get a little bit big like Armageddon Angel, but I'd most say Dire Benediction is best when coupled with something like even purple maybe, because purple has some big minions in, or bigger minions in there, but it's very good with green because it has those big fatty minions that you can just go, this has got 8 strength, I'm going to do 8 damage to your face, and they have overrun, so you can normally swing with them and then do that. So they're anything like between 10 and 15 life, you can get lethal with Dire Benediction, but it's not a card you want to be running all the time. And if you are running it, I often only run 1 copy of it. It's a little added spice. If I find it and I can get lethal with it, brilliant. But I don't want to have 2 of these in my hand when I can't do anything with them because they are effectively completely useless cards. So yeah, it's a good card when coupled with the right deck. Okay, moving on now. Insurance Broker. This card it goes through stages. It gets I see seasons or little mini metas or sub metas, whatever you want to call them, where it's played lots, and then I see where it's disappeared and it's hardly played at all. Insurance Broker is a lurker. It comes out with 1 charge. It gets 1 charge whenever another minion dies, your minion or your opponent's minion. And then when it gets 3 charges, you can use those charges to draw a card. It has 1 attack and 3 health. This works very well in a more aggressive red-orange deck because you have your little small minions. You've got your rush minions out there. They're often trading into other minions. You've got your Strigoi pups that are getting your life tap, but then they're dying quite easily. And if you just get 1 card draw off Insurance Broker, you're pretty much getting your value back. I've seen this card go off for 3, 4, 5 card draw. And with the lurker, and they keep playing minions next to it, it can be a real pain in the ass to deal with. It's not a super strong card, but if you're playing more of an aggressive red-orange deck, or even something like an orange-purple that's got a little bit more on the aggression side of mid-range, then Insurance Broker is definitely a card you could easily think about putting in. It does give you card draw. It's not consistent card draw, but it is pretty good card draw. Playing it with something like Rider Race for Shadows, when you can place that down, you swing into them, and you maybe remove 2 minions. Instantly, you've got 2 charges. With the 1 charge comes down, you've instantly got card draw. Now, it doesn't kill itself with the card draw. It's not like Maze. These are charges, so it still stays on the board. More minions die, maybe gets more charges. It can be a very strong card, if not dealt with. And it also asks a question to your opponent saying, you need to deal with this card, otherwise I'm just going to keep drawing cards. Simple as that. Next, we're going to go on to Pastor Clarion. This card, again, it's only played in Rebel or Rebel Zealot decks. I am showing you one of those decks later on in this video. I just wanted to point it out because anyone who's new to the game, anyone who wants a cheap, fun deck to play, I recommend going down to the search bar and typing in Zealots and Rebels and throwing them into a deck, adding your own little bits and bobs in here and there depending on what card collection you've got. These cards it's a really cheap deck to make. You can make it for about 4,000 essence and then start spicing up with the mythics when you get them. But this is a staple of that deck. If you want to run any Zealots synergy, then this card is a must-have. You need this card in the deck. It's a fun card to play. It basically means you play two Zealots 1 turn. All of a sudden, all your Zealot cards have got +2 attack. If you have Spirit of Destiny out, every card you play is a Zealot. So every time you play 2 cards, every card that can attack now has 2 extra attack. So it can be very, very strong. It's not a super strong card. It's just in the Zealot synergy. It's a strong card in that micro tribal synergy, whatever you want to call it. Next up, Caravan. Caravan got a nerf recently. It was a good nerf. It was a nerf that was needed, but it's still a very strong card. Caravan is a construct defender card, basically meaning it can't attack unless you play a certain artifact that says it can attack. But defenders can't attack. But when it awakens, give adjacent minions a standard action, meaning they can attack or move. If they've already attacked once that turn, they can still do attack again if they are occupying a desert enchantment. This didn't used to have the desert enchantment. It used to just be give your adjacent minions a standard action, which was nuts because you played green-orange, you'd have Short Stag, an extreme example, Short Stag and IQ. You play Caravan in the middle, so you swing with Short Stag and IQ, an 8-8 and a 10-10 that have overrun. So you've already probably got, let's say, 5 damage to the face. Maybe remove the minions opposite them. Then you play Resupply Caravan and you can swing for another 18 because it didn't have the Desert Enchantment. Desert Enchantment's now a thing. It's still a strong card, okay? It's a defender. Let's say even if you're playing just a mono-orange desert deck, which is perfectly, like I said, going from bronze to silver, you'll be fine with a mono-orange desert deck. But let's say you got something like Mardukor down on the Desert Enchantment. You swung with it once to face. You then play Caravan next to it. You can swing again for 4-4. So you just have 8 damage to the face. And you've got a defender next to this, meaning they can't trade into Mardukor. They trade into the defender. So it isn't as nearly as strong as it used to be because before it was broken. But it is, it's a lot more balanced to where it should be now. This falls in a lot more line with it is. And you can still set up some pretty crazy, nutty combos with it. Next up, Serendipity iFreak. One of the most underrated orange cards for new players. Experienced players who play the game a lot know how good this card is. I feel like a lot of new players, when I've watched some streams of people who are getting into the game, they always avoid this card, or they often avoid this card because of the text. When you draw a card, lose 1 life. Please, please, please ignore that text. Obviously, if you're down to 2 life, you're not going to play this card because you're putting yourself in a very, very sticky situation. However, you play this card on curve. It is a free mana card, so you can play it on turn 3. You look at it allows you to look at the top 3 cards of your deck and choose what you're drawing next. And it is a 4/4 body. This thing, if they don't put anything opposite it, just starts chipping away at them, okay? It starts doing some big damage. This card is very, very good. Honestly, I cannot stress how good this card is as an uncommon. You need to be putting this in your orange deck. It's just knowing when to play it. Like I said, if you're below probably 8 life, you're not going to play it because you're potentially setting them up to get a swing on you and then 1 ping and you're dead. If you think that's going to be the case, you try and trade the i3 into another minion just to get it killed and maybe get one of their minions down to a certain amount of health. But it is a very, very strong card. Probably one of the best uncommons in orange. It's super strong. It allows mid-game consistency. Going into turn 4, you can choose a 4 mana card that's going to come out. You can play on curve with the divination, and you've got a 4/4 on the board. Very, very strong. Next up, we are going on to Shadowvar Beast. Shadowvar Beast. I make notes for these videos because I like to be organised. Shadowvar Beast is a card that was never played anywhere and then was played everywhere. Its minions in the opposing 3 lanes have -1/-0, so they lose 1 attack and they have fragile 1. So it's a little bit crazy. It's you play this opposite something like a Parsar or an Eager Recruit. It's now just a 1/1 with fragile. You play like this card is a very good mid-range card because 1, it can offer set up control situations where you can play this opposite certain minions and they maybe lose all their attack, or it allows you to trade other minions into like a 4/4 to remove it, or you play this next to i3. It allows i3 as a 4/4 with the fragile to trade into a 5/5. So it's very, maybe even i3 survives. Maybe the card they've got is 5 health and 3 attack. It now only has 2 attack because the -1. So the i3 survives and it removes a 5 health minion. It's a very, very strong card. It's up there with i3 for being the best orange uncommon card. It's super good. It's played in, I normally play minimum 2 copies in every orange deck now that I run, regardless of it being a duo color, or regardless of it being a tricolor, regardless of it being a monocolor. It's the 1 gem makes it easy to fit into duo color and tricolor decks. Yeah, I cannot stress how good these 2 cards are, guys. And they're cheap. If you're very new to the game, go craft these cards. They're super cheap, and you're going to put them in almost any of your orange decks. They are very, very good. Okay, next we're going to go on to the best rare potentially the best rare in the game. I'm not going to lie. Definitely, in my opinion, the best rare in Orange, and that is Perry at the Gates. Perry at the Gates is a 4-mana card, 2 orange gems. Now you might go, oh, it's only got a 2/2 body. That's not very good. Just listen to this ability. Draw a card, and then look at the top 2 cards of your deck and draw that card. So you draw a card, you look at 2 other cards, you choose what card you want to draw, and you draw it. This card wins games. And the reason it wins games is on turn 4, if you play it on curve, your opponent might be down with the burning. If they haven't found any card drawn, it might be down to 3 cards in hand. Maybe 2 cards in hand. You might be on the same. You might be down to 2 cards in hand. All of a sudden, you're back up to 4, 5 cards in hand, and you've got a blocker on the board of a 2/2. You now have options. If your opponent doesn't find card draw, they're top decking. You're not top decking because you found Perry at the Gates, and you have those options in your hand. You can now play 1 or 2 cards per turn when they can only play 1 card per turn. It's a very, very strong card. If you have rare orange wildcards sat in your library, go craft this card now. It will go in every single orange deck you play. Monocolor, duocolor. It's such a good card. I cannot stress how good this card is, guys. Simple as that. Just go and craft it, okay? Next up, Scorn of Pride. This is going to be my choice of your must craft orange mythic. And I'm going to explain why. Now, there are better orange mythics out there, which we're going to go on to, but they are better in certain situations. You're not going to run them in every single deck, apart from maybe one of them. One of them you probably will run in every single deck, so it's up to you which one you craft. However, Scorn of Pride will be ran in every single deck. It's a very good mid-game card. Now, what it does is it brings out a 4/4 Scorn of Pride, and it gives you a Pride of Place in your hand. Now, Pride of Place can be used in a variety of ways. You can, if they've got a big fat minion on the other side of the board, you can convert one of their minions, their IQ, their 10/10 IQ, into a 4/4 Spirit Lion. And if you read the extra text on Scorn of Pride, is immune to damage from spirits. So this card is a spirit. It doesn't take damage now from the card that is opposite the Scorn of Pride, meaning you have completely free removal with this card. You can also use Pride of Place on setting up lethal, where you play Scorn of Pride. You have a 1/1 that can attack now, and then you turn it into a Pride of Place. So it gets converted into a Pride of Place, and the Pride of Place is now a 4/4 Spirit Lion. So rather than attacking for 1/1, you're attacking for 4/4. That can potentially set up lethal. There's a good example of that happening it was about a week ago in the Mythland Championships. In the final, one of the players missed lethal. They went on to win the game, but Garen missed lethal slightly earlier on, where they could have played Pride of Place on one of their cards, converted into a 4/4 Spirit Lion, and swung through for lethal. It's a very, very good card. The reason I'm recommending this card over any other orange mythic is purely its versatility. This card will go in pretty well. I play it guaranteed in every single orange deck I play. Whether I'm playing aggro, whether I'm playing mid-range, whether I'm playing control. It's a 4 mana means it's going to get out, and it can really stop big threats. It's a very, very good card, and it's one I recommend. My personal opinion is saying go craft this card first, but there is one other card I'm going to bring to your attention in a minute. Okay. Next up, Seal of Exile. Seal of Exile is a card that it's very strong. It's not so. It's uncommon. Is it as good as Shadow of Our Beast or Serendipity i3? It's different. So it's a 4 mana card, 2 orange gems. You banish an enemy minion and all copies of it from its owner's lanes, hand, deck, and boneyard. So let's say that they've got Stergori Pup out, which is the red 1-drop that is 2/1 and has life tap. You play it on Stergori Pup, not that you ever would, but just an example. They have 4 of them in the deck. It would maybe pull one. It would pull one off the board that's there. Maybe they got 1 in the hand. It will pull 1 out of the hand, and then the rest out of their deck. So all are gone from the game. There's no way they can get those cards back. Okay. However, you do sacrifice a gem and mana. Okay. So you're not losing 2 mana. You're losing effectively 1 mana and the gem. So if you play this on curve, as in on turn 4, it can lose you the game. And by that, what I mean is your opponent is then going to go up to 5 mana. You're stuck on 3 mana. You're playing quite heavily behind them by committing this early. Playing Seal of Exile at the right time is so key in this game. If you're running Seal of Exile, you need to know what you're going to be playing it on. So it's a definite. It's in almost every orange deck because it's great spot removal. However, you need to know when to play it at the right time. It's a card that could have a video all on its own, and I'm not even kidding there. Next one, we're going to Temptation, which is a very good rare. It's another 4-drop, 2 orange gems, and this allows you to take control of an enemy minion with a mana cost of 5 or less in the opposite in unoccupied lane. That is very key on the text. It gains rush, and you can swing with it. Okay, so it's if you played Hearthstone, it's a little bit like mind control, but you don't actually keep control of the card. The end of the turn, it goes back to your opponent's hand, and its cost is reduced by 4. So if you use this on a 5 mana card and it doesn't die, next turn they can play that card for 1 mana and whatever gem cost it has. So you got to be careful. Where Temptation comes in great is stealing one of your opponent's cards and trading that card into another one of their minions to remove 2 minions with Temptation. That's where Temptation really thrives, and that's how I'd recommend you use Temptation. It's the best way to use Temptation. Or if you have lethal. If you can steal a card to swing it at their face for lethal, obviously that's another way to use it. But don't use it just to swing 5 damage at them and give them the card back. You're giving them a cheaper card, allowing them to effectively play ahead of curve, playing 2 cards maybe on turn 5, turn 6, and 2 potentially big cards that you can't answer next turn. So it's a very good card. You just need to know when to play it. Ideally, use it in a control situation where you're going to take one of their minions and trade one of their minions into 2 of their cards, into another one of their cards to remove 2 of their cards, and they won't get the card back. Yes. Okay, so moving on. Now we are going to Solomon Gail. Solomon Gail is a card I wanted to highlight because I don't want to say this card's underrated because this card isn't great. It sits in very much the same camp as Kara Morningwives does in blue. And that's the one that every time an enemy minion is created, buff self by 1/1. The reason I say that is it's pretty much similar mana cost. Kara's 4 mana, Solomon Gail's 5 mana. This card isn't great, but it needs an answer. So if you don't go and craft this card if you've got a Mythic Wild card sat in there that's orange. However, if you pull it, yeah, hell yeah, run it. So it has Overrun. It does 4 damage. If Overrun, so the Breach ability, even if you trade in, say, a 3/3, the 1 damage that goes through counts as Breach, and it now gains Alpha Strike, and it will get 2/2. So it will end up, let's say it took 3 damage, it would end up going to a 6/3 Alpha Strike. So anything with 6 health, this removes before it does any damage to them. It is a card, like I said, that needs answering. Because they don't answer it that turn, all of a sudden it goes to an 8/3. If you can buff it up somehow with Mend, or maybe playing orange-purple, and you can use some Zuin's potion on it to buff it up back to 6, this card can get out of hand. It's very rare it does get out of hand, but it is a card that requires an answer. Especially if you put it early on, put it into your deck. Because if you're playing through bronze and silver, people will need... If they don't realise they need to answer this card, it can get out of hand and it can become very dominating. It can start removing minions without being removed. They have no AoE, no spells to target it for health damage, and they haven't got anything that gets over the attack damage for it. So the Alpha Strike's triggering every turn. This card can get out of hand. But it is a card that when I first started playing, I looked at it and went, oh my god, this card is nuts. I played it a lot and went, this card is absolutely fine. It's not nuts, okay? But I just wanted to make you aware of it. It is a card that needs an answer. If your opponent plays it, get rid of it as quick as you can. Do not let this thing get out of hand. Otherwise, with the Overrun, it builds up to an 8 or a 10 with Overrun and Alpha Strike. God help us all. Like, yeah, it's not good. Now, Heaven and Back is nuts. Now, if anyone watched the last video I done, it's a red in-depth guide. And I showed you a deck in that called Heaven and Hell. And that's because we ran Stairway to Hades and to Heaven and Back as 2 enchantment decks. 2 enchantments. This card can give you so much late game consistency and late game presence. When an occupying non-angel minion, please remember that because that is very important, dies, return it to its owner's hand. It is now an angel. It gets 1/1 and agile, and its mana cost is reduced by 2. So let's say, for example, you play Solomon's Gail onto Heaven and Back. Solomon's Gail dies. It now comes out a 5/7. Has agile, so it's going to get the breach ability, no doubt. And it only costs 3 mana to play. It's like, oh my god, this card is infuriating. If you don't have any enchantment tech to get rid of it, if they have Stairway to Hades and the Heaven and Back on the board at the same time, and they have cards in hand to keep playing on these enchantments, it's, oh my god, it's infuriating. It's horrible to play against. It's super, super strong. Is it a must-craft mythic in orange? Yes, but not straight away. The reason I'm saying that is, if you don't have... This is a hard one, okay? My opinion, and by all means, people disagree with me if you play the game a lot and you want to let me know in the comments below. By all means, disagree with me. My opinion, comparing this to something like your Scorn of Pride, to play this effectively, you need a little bit more of a collection, in my opinion. This card is great, but you need a bit more of a collection, and you also need a better understanding of the game. This card can be a little bit tricky to play at first, knowing what you play on it and how you're going to combo with it. Whereas Scorn of Pride, when you're learning the game, is just flat up an easy card to play that can win you games. Yes, Heaven and Back can win you games, but it's a little bit more of a skill curve with it in terms of what to play and how to manage your hand and your resources. Whereas Scorn of Pride is a flat down, I'm going to put this card down, I'm going to make that card there into it. And yeah, so there's 3 mythics here that you could craft. I would personally say there are 2 mythics you craft over Heaven and Back first. But obviously, if you pull this card from a pack, hell, fucking throw it into your orange deck straight away. Straight away, put it in there. Otherwise, you can craft it if you want. I personally would go with Scorn of Pride first. I went with Scorn of Pride first, and I'm happy I went with Scorn of Pride first. But it can be preferential. It can be preference to whoever's playing the game. Okay, coming to the end of our cards now. 3 more to look at. Gail the Unforgiven. I quickly wanted to highlight this card because this is another card that, again, you read it and you go Slayer 2. So if I'm attacking a minion, I do 7 damage. Gets another action after killing a minion in combat. I read it and was like, what? This card is nuts. Again, it falls very much in the same pool as Solomon's Gale in terms of it seems very strong on paper. When you play it, it is strong, but it's not nearly as strong as it first sounds. However, it's the same as Solomon's Gale. It requires an answer. There are better 6-drop cards you want to be playing around this time, or potentially around this time, depending on what colours you're mixing with orange. But it is a card, if you put it in your deck, it's not a card I'd say go craft right away now, but it can be very controlling. You can play this, if they've got 3 minions opposite that are, say, 3 frees, all 3 frees, with the 10 health, you could trade into every single one of them, and then still swing for 5 to face. You could remove 3 minions with 1 card, and swing 5 to face. That's how strong this card can be. It's very rare it ever gets to being like that. It often gets answered very quickly. Yeah, but it's a good card. It's not a very good card. It's just a good card. Not one I'd say go craft straight away, but it is one that is if you pull it into your deck, simple as that. Okay, second from last card, Lavish Proxy. Lavish Proxy is a card that is a little bit nuts, but I don't want to say overrated because I sound like a dick when I say this, and I did include it in my overrated video, and I explain why. Lavish Proxy, Regen 2. Prevent all damage or loss of life that would reduce you below 1 while this card is in play. Basically meaning you can't die when Lavish Proxy is on the board. If Lavish Proxy is there, you can't go below 1 health. If they swing a 2/2 into it with the regen, it will just buff back to 9 next turn. But 9 health can make it annoying to remove. This card is very, very good. If you pull it, then you're definitely playing it in your orange deck. As you get more of a collection, it's a card you're going to be crafting. It's not your first craft mythic because you cannot put all your eggs into the Lavish Proxy basket, meaning if this gets removed or it gets turned into a Pride of Place by Scorn of Pride, it gets turned into something else, it gets put back to your hand, you die. You can't go, oh, I've got Lavish Proxy on the board now, I don't die. It's a very naive approach to take. Most of the time, Lavish Proxy comes down, it can stay around for a couple of turns, it can get insane value, but nevertheless, the chances are your opponent will be running a card that allows them to remove a card. Meaning, they're probably going to remove Lavish Proxy. Once it's gone from the board, if you haven't got other cards there to sustain yourself, keep yourself out from dying, considering you're going to be on 1 life probably, you're going to die. So it's a card that is great, but it is also a card that can be answered quite easily. So don't get it thinking, I'm never going to lose an orange game anymore. It is a card that, the reason I mean it's slightly overrated is because people depend on it way too much. They put it down thinking, easy, I'm not going to die now. and then it gets removed and they go, oh, I'm dead. So yeah, that's why I think it's slightly overrated. However, I do run it in every orange deck I run because why wouldn't I? It's a chance to potentially not die. And the last card is the card that you could choose between Scorn of Pride, in my opinion, Scorn of Pride, or Armageddon Angel as your first or as your must craft mythic. Armageddon Angel, destroy all other minions. It's created with 1 more strength for each of your minions and 1 less health for each of your opponent's minions destroyed in this way. So let's say your opponent's got 3 minions on the board. You've got 2 minus the 3 from your health. It will come down at 4 health. Your 2 minions, it will go up to 9. So it'll be a 9/4 when it drops on the board, okay? It can be very strong. This card never really gets damage to face because it doesn't have overrun. People just throw chump blockers down. However, your opponent has a massive board out. Even if they have all 7 lanes through, drop in Armageddon Angel. Yes, Armageddon Angel is going to die because it will go down to 0 health. You've removed their whole board. Chances are they have 7 cards on the board. They have a very small hand. Maybe this one play, clearing their board, can actually completely turn the tide of the battle into your favour. It's a very, very good control-y card. It's in every orange deck pretty much. It's your choice. If you're playing more of an aggressive mid-range deck, then you're going to go for Scorn of Pride because 7 mana with 3 orange gems can be a little bit tricky to get out. However, if you're playing more of a mid-range card deck, or especially a control deck of orange, then Armageddon Angel is going to be your choice. Quick note, please don't play this. I see new players playing Armageddon Angel onto Heaven and Back. Armageddon Angel, as the clue says in the title, is an angel. It won't work on Heaven and Back. However, remember the red deck we looked at, Stairway to Hades, it will work on Stairway to Hades and the ability will pop twice. Also, note that cards with warded won't be destroyed because they can't be destroyed outside of combat damage. So it won't destroy them. If they've got a full board of warded, it won't destroy them. Simple as that, okay? And that's the cards. That is the cards, guys. Hopefully, that's helpful for you guys. Let's quickly jump over and look at some decks. I try to keep these videos around about 50 to 55 minutes. So I'm trying to speed through it a little bit. But like I said, I want to do really in-depth guides. That were all the orange cards that I recommend you go through. We've got 3 interesting decks to look at. The first one I'm going to look at is my deck that I don't want to say I made because I didn't come up with the Zealot synergy. But a deck that I built around the Rebel Zealot synergy. Okay, and it's called Highway to the Zealot Zone because why not? I like Top Gun, so why the hell not? So you can see here we've got 1 conviction, we've got our 4 eager recruits. Everything here is either pretty much a Rebel or a Zealot. Obviously that's not there because it's a spirit spell. Okay, we've got Zealot. In terms of stuff in Zealots, we've got Rebel, we've got Zealot, we've got Serendipity I3. Isn't a Zealot or a Rebel, but I said how good the card is. Shadow of our Beast, again, isn't a Zealot or Rebel, but I said how good the card is. We have a Zealot. We have Perry, because I said one of the best rares in the game. Then we have the Scorn of Pride. Again, it's just a nice versatile card. 2 Seed of Exiles, 2 Temptations. Now, you'll notice this deck's very cheap. It's more an aggressive take on the deck. I wouldn't run Angel in this deck because I normally only burn where I don't have a big late game presence. I only normally burn up to around about 5-6 mana. That's all. Or gems. That's all I would burn. Okay. It's a pretty cheap deck. It's 11,000 essence. So if you wanted to go and craft it, you can by all means. It's linked in the description below if you want to go and craft this deck, play around with it. If you're on bronze or silver ladder, you'll definitely have success with this deck. This is the deck that took me up to gold. Like I played other decks as well, but this is the deck I try-harded with, and it took me all the way up to gold. I found it really successful, and I really, really enjoyed it. We run Journey of Seasons because a lot of our smaller minions die quite quickly, so we're getting card draw back. I feel more consistently when we are getting back with Turn of Seasons. Also, Turn of Seasons buffing your minion or healing your minions by 1 doesn't really work because a lot of these are quite small minions anyway. And the Fragile was really screwing me over at times with this, so I went with Journey of Seasons, Journey of Souls, and Impel is just really good in this. It can set up clear lanes attacks, especially stuff like when you play past Clarion, and if you have something like Synthesizer out and it ends up getting into a 6/6 or a 6/4 frenzied Rebel Zealot. Like, yeah, it's super good. It's a very fun deck to play. I definitely recommend going to play around with it if you want to give Zealot Rebels a little chance, especially if you're new to the game. Import this deck and you can get rid of the Scorn of Pride. You could probably get rid of some of the temptations if you want to. Get rid of some, like, get rid of the Spear of Destiny, and just play around with whatever cards you have got. Keep the base Rebel Zealot package, and build what cards you have got, and you'll still probably have success with this card because it synergizes so well. Simple as that. Next up, another deck that I made is an orange-purple mid-range. Now, this is completely me. I made this deck up. I was super happy with this deck. It's a pretty strong deck. It's a lot more expensive. We're going up now to 27,000 essence. So this isn't a new player's deck, okay? And these decks aren't designed... The reason I'm showing you these decks, although it's a new to Mythgard video, is because I'm trying to show you the example of cards I spoke about in the video, now how they would fit into decks. So you can see here we've got a Conviction again. Eager Recruit, as I said, you're normally always running 4 of these guys. They're your go-to 1-drops, okay? Your Exerion Recruiter, again, it's card draw. 2 Pair at the Gates, again, it's card draw. Here you go, your Seal of Exile. Temptation, now we can see our Heaven and Back, our Cashel, our Lavish Proxy, and our Armageddon Angel. All mythics I said that you would craft, okay? If I had to bin one of these off, I'd probably bin off the Cashel first, and then I'd maybe bin off the Lavish Proxy, keep the Heaven and Back, and keep the Armageddon Angel in there. Simzuin allows me to use health on my Armageddon Angels, on my Lavish Proxies, on my Cashel, keep it alive. Respawn's a card that I've been playing around with a little bit. I haven't played this deck for a little while. It's given minion, so when the minion dies, it just returns back to the lane. So I could play this on Armageddon Angel. I trade in something that's going to kill it, and then Armageddon Angel comes back, the ability pops, and the card pops back up in that lane. Misfortune, and it's mixing with orange. This is a very mid-range deck, so you haven't got anything huge. There's no big control spot removal there that orange offers. None of your Spirited Aways, none of your polymorphs, I think they're called. I think that's actually what they're called in Hearthstone. I can't remember that. Mutton Morphosis, there you go. Mutton Morphosis, none of those spot removals. Our spot removal is our Seal of Exile, really, or Potential Temptation. But it's a fun deck to play. It is expensive. You can, like I said, you could bin off Jin Suk. Rogue Eidolon's very good. You could bin off either Misfortune or Rogue Eidolon. You could bin off the Cashel. You could bin off the Lavish Proxy. And that will bring it down by a substantial amount, but it's still going to be an expensive deck to play. If you're looking for a different mid-range deck to play around with, this is one I definitely recommend you play. Has a turn of seasons because we have bigger minions there, so we're getting the full... It's a longer game. We're getting more value of turn of seasons going on for maybe 8 to 12 turns, getting 2 to 3 card draw off it, as well as the other abilities, rather than the other deck where we're looking to win by turn 6, turn 7, where a turn of seasons we're only get 1 card draw off that. Whereas with Journey of Souls, we're probably getting 2 or 3 card draw off that alone. So, final deck we're going to go on to is a very interesting deck to play. I've played around with it a tiny bit, and that is Angel Loop. Now, this is Min-Max's take on Angel Loop. Angel Loop is an absolute bonkers deck, but if you don't win by around about maybe turn 8, 9, maybe 10, you pretty much lose. I'm not even kidding. You're basically using cards like Root of the World, which Occupy Minion has +1. Place this minion at the bottom of the owner's deck and draw your next minion. The reason that's so important is with stuff like Armageddon Angel, you can literally play Armageddon Angel an infinite amount of times with this deck. I'm not kidding. Armageddon Angel goes down on Root of the World. Root of the World pops it back in there, and the ability goes off. You put it back out. It goes round. It does it over and over and over and over and over again. I'm not even kidding, okay? This deck is nuts. It's an expensive deck to play. It's actually cheaper. It's 24,000 essence. It is by far not an easy deck to play. If you are like, maybe you're like 20, 30 hours into the game, you're like, Joe, I'm getting a good understanding of this game. I want to play a complex deck now. Bloody me, go play this deck. This deck it's very fun. It's extremely fun to play. One of the most fun decks in the game. You're using Rainbow's End to make sure you can find your Root of the Worlds, to make sure you can find your Blarney Falls, all your other enchantments, your Thieves' Bazaars. It's a very fun deck to play. It's a very complex deck to play because you need to make sure you're making sure your combos are working at the right time. You're making sure you're getting the right cards at the right time. But it is effective. It can also carry you up ladder. If you played this through silver, you'd wreck silver. You'd probably wreck your way up most of gold with it as well. It's a very, very strong deck, but it does require a lot of thought from you as a pilot. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, that's it, guys. That is our decks. That is our cards. That is Orange as a faction. Hopefully it helped you out a little bit. Hopefully you you learned something from this video. If you're new to the game and these videos are helping you, then let me know in the comments below, because I know that's slightly longer. They're nearly an hour long each one, but I do want to keep them as in-depth. I want to really dive into the faction. We have one more to do, which is purple. It'll probably go live around about Tuesday, Wednesday next week. I'm working with Semper this week and to do that. The reason I'm working with Semper is he, in my opinion, is the person I know who's played the most purple. He's a very good purple player. He knows a lot about the purple cards. I haven't played much purple, so I'm going to work with him on that one to make sure I get the best info for you guys possible. But yeah, that is it, guys. That is this video done. If you like the video, give it a little like. If you like, if you want to keep up with more content from me, more Mythgard content from me, then make sure you subscribe to the video. I got a deck video planned for you guys next week as well as the last one in this series, purple one. And then we're going to look at some opinion videos. We're going to start doing some what we want from the next expansion and other little things, kind of what I'd like to see coming into Mythgard. But anyway, thank you so much for stopping by, guys. It's been a long one, but have a great day, morning, evening, whatever it is, where you guys are. And until next time, you guys just keep being amazing, because you guys are amazing. Goodbye.